Good evening and welcome to the Ripple Podcast. My name is Jim Lang. I'm the Director of Guest Services here at America's Keswick, and we're so excited to give you a glimpse into the heartbeat of our ministry. For 123 years, God has used America's Keswick to set men and women free from their addictions through the gospel of Jesus Christ. And through these podcasts, we want to show you testimonies of men and women and even some of our staff members of how God has touched their hearts and lives through these ministries. One of the most dynamic parts about what we do here is that when a man or a woman comes here and their life is completely changed, a ripple effect is created. As they go back to their churches and their families and their communities, God uses them to radically touch the hearts and lives of the people they come in contact with. And we're hoping that through this podcast, that your heart is touched, that your life is encouraged. And so this ministry means so much to me, not only because I live and work here, but also because back in 2013, God used America's Keswick to set me free from my addiction. So I thought it only fitting that the first episode of this podcast would be my testimony. And so I invited along my wife, Allie Lang, who's gonna conduct the interview here. And one of the cool things is the ripple effect on my life is that Allie is now a care worker and counselor down at Barbara's Place. And I'm just so proud of all she does there and the encouragement and just the love that she has for the women. And so I'm going to hand it over to her, and she's going to conduct the interview here. It's kind of going to be like our first date all over again. And so you get a chance to kind of just rapid fire some questions at me. And so begin whenever you're ready.
So you told me that this ministry has changed your life. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your life before you came to the colony?
Sure. Well, just briefly, I grew up in a loving Christian home, had great parents, went to church growing up, and when I was a young teenager, around 14 years old, I gave my life to Christ and really wanted my life to serve Him, and was very involved in my youth group and decided that I wanted to one day go into ministry and be a youth pastor, and wanted my life to serve the Lord. And a couple years later, I got my first job and kind of fell in love with the freedom that working and with money gave me, and ended up getting distracted and ended up wanting to go into business rather than into ministry. And so I went away to college and kind of got wrapped up in the party scene, really wanted to fit in with other people. And so drinking kind of became the way I fit in. It kind of calmed all the insecurities that I had about myself. It kind of made all those go away, and kind of really, if I look back on it, from the first drink that I had, it kind of just had its hooks in me. And throughout my adult life, it kind of crept in as something that I just always relied on, whether I was happy about something or sad about something. It kind of became the thing that I turned to, and it kind of marked my adult life with some poor choices that I'm not going to get fully into, but eventually it's something that I completely depended upon. And at the age of 27 years old, I was deep in addiction. I had hidden my addiction from my family, from my friends, and I ended up losing my job and kind of just going into a deep depression and just really diving deep into my addiction. And one of the times I ended up drinking myself into the hospital, and it kind of revealed my secret to my family. And right off the get-go, my mom had suggested America's Keswick, and I wasn't really ready for that. And so I kind of pushed that off to the side and really tried to do things on my own. And so drinking kind of just came and went, and just really took its toll on my life.
Mm-hmm. And so what made you actually decide to choose America's Keswick if it's been sitting on your nightstand for a while?
Well, like I said, my mom had suggested it to me right off the bat, and was really full of shame. I was full of shame, full of regret, and did not want to return to the Lord. I really wasn't ready, and so God really I had the application actually for America's Keswick and had it for a year. And during that year, God really broke me down, and He took away my apartment. He took away all my resources, my job, my place to live, everything. And just I tried to get into all sorts of secular rehabs, tried every other avenue to run from Him, and the only place that would take me was America's Keswick. And so after kind of a week-long run where my life just became in shambles again, I finally admitted that I needed the help and filled out the application and sent it in.
Mm-hmm. That's an awesome story. So tell me a little bit about what God did in your life while you were at the colony.
So I came to the colony not with the best attitude. I didn't come here gung-ho for change in my life. I actually came here wanting to prove this place wrong. I was going to kind of show everyone that I just was who I was, that nothing was really going to change. And so I really came in with a hard heart. And, during the first week, I really kind of, I didn't socialize at all. I didn't talk to anyone. But God was slowly chipping away at my heart. And my first chapel service, I came in on a Thursday, and the next Wednesday we have a service called Text and Testimony. And during that service, we sang a song called One Thing Remains, and it says, "Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me." And God used that to recall the scripture I gave when I was baptized as a 14-year-old boy from Romans 8:38 and 39. It says, "For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing shall be able to separate me from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus." And God turned my heart of stone into a heart of flesh, and just started revealing Himself to me while I was here. And one of the biggest things that changed in me while I was here is that I always found my identity in what other people thought of me, what my job was. Mm-hmm. And I ran to those things for my identity. And God showed me through the Colony of Mercy, through the program at the Colony of Mercy, that my identity was to be found in Him, that I was His child. And, He showed me that, all the years of running and all the years of avoiding Him, that I never stopped being His child, that I was always His child. And that's where I needed to find my identity. And when I started to live out of the right identity, when I started to live for Him and live for His purposes, that's when things started to change in my life.
Mm-hmm. I love hearing your heart when you say that story. So now it's 6 years later, and you are working on staff at America's Keswick. So tell me how that happened.
So I wish I could tell you that I graduated the colony and it's been, it's just kind of all hunky-dory since then. But while I was in the colony, I really felt God was calling me to stay for discipleship. And in my first opportunity to be obedient to Him, I was disobedient, and I left and kind of wanted to get back to my life, get back to my career. And I did well for a while. I went to my covenant church. I met this beautiful lady while attending church and serving in the ministries there. I graduated my covenant. But it was becoming all about me again, and what I wanted to do with my life and how I wanted to use my life, and the stress started to build up on me. I started to take my will back, and under the pressure of all the stress, I ran to where I always ran, and I went out and drank again, and really God took from me everything that He had given me, the job I had, the trust of my family. Our relationship ended at that moment, and there I was again with nothing. And I ended up reaching out to a gentleman on staff here at America's Keswick that was kind of my mentor at the time, and just trying to figure out what to do. And he said, "Why don't you come stay with me for a little while? You can volunteer in the kitchen." And that was in July of 2014, and I have been here ever since. I never left. I volunteered in the kitchen all summer long, and God used that time to just remind me of who I am in Him, and the identity that I was supposed to still be living out of. And at the end of the summer, a job in guest services opened up, and what's always amazing is that that's what I went to college for. I went to school for hospitality management, and so even in the times where my knee wasn't bent to the Lord, where I wasn't living for Him, He was preparing me for what He had for me here, and what He wanted me to do. And so I came on staff in September of 2014, and in the beginning of 2015, I became the director of guest services, and in March of 2015, I ended up marrying the love of my life, and God's just been doing amazing things in my life since.
Amen. Well, one thing that I really love about you is that your story never goes untold, and you've shared it over and over again to encourage men and women in their journeys. So tell me a little bit about the ripple effect that your story has had on other people.
It's just been amazing the way that God has opened up doors for me to just share my story, to whether it's at churches, to the men of the colony, but God has given me a desire and a heart to minister to others who are in the same position I was in. And so I preach at the Colony Chapel. I run Bible studies down at the chapel. We do a prayer night with the men, and He's just given me opportunity after opportunity to just proclaim His goodness, how He brought me out of darkness and into His marvelous light. And that's really the call He has on my life, and He's just given me every platform to be able to do that. And I'm just so thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. I never tire of hearing your story, and I'm grateful to have been a part of seeing the ripple effect of what God has done in your life.
We hope that this testimony has encouraged you. We hope that you share this testimony if it's been an encouragement to you, and that you continue to watch these each week as we put them out. Have a great night.